I don't have breaking news, but I've reached out to multiple people that would know kind of what's going on. He is a serious candidate with the Seahawks. Apparently, Pete Carroll, who obviously is no longer there and seems like he's going to be involved with the Washington program because his son has been elevated to the offensive coordinator there. Pete Carroll has always been kind of enthralled, very interested in the system Ryan Grubb runs. And so I think there's a lot of Seahawks front office guys. You know, Mike McDonald, let's not forget, is a defensive guy.
That's right. Yeah, defensive coordinator.
So,
and you guys have always told me, unlike in college where the head coach sort of sticks his head in everybody's room and meddles with everybody, that in the NFL, the defensive guys run the defense, the offensive guys run the offense, and there's not a whole lot of blending between the two sides of the ball.
You know, and John Snyder has been one of these general managers behind the scenes. I mean, he just makes really good moves. Now, look, they were awful 31st in total defense this year. One of the reasons they bring Mike McDonald in. But apparently a lot of the brass there, they're enamored with Ryan Grubb, and he is going to be one of the serious finalists for this job. And you just wonder if Ryan Grubb, I don't know who represents Ryan Grubb. We were told Kalen DeBoer is represented by
Jimmy Sexton, but that was late developing. He's not always been a Sexton guy.
Yeah, and Ryan Grubb, you know, he gets to Tuscaloosa. You walk around for a couple of weeks. You don't really like the feel. You are very comfortable in Seattle. Crazy thing, and I've been told if DeBoer loses Grubb, this is a massive, massive deal. They've been together since 2007. And he really is the fingerprints of this offense.
Well, JT83 in the chat room says Seattle running with a first-time head coach and first-time NFL offensive coordinator certainly is a choice. And you do wonder if some of the ownership, you know, you want Mike McDonald to have who he's comfortable with, but you're also like, boy, we got a lot of first times in front of names here now. First-time head coach, first-time offensive coordinator. I'd kind of like a little experience in the room.
No,
so
I get that, but at the same time, when you watched Washington's offense, it was a pro-style offense.
Oh yeah,
I think it's you know, plug and play.
Okay, now listen, I made a quick reaction video in front of Alfa Romeo yesterday when I was there getting my car service, and the first reaction from the Purple Rain folks up in Seattle was, "Oh, we're just not going to comment that this guy's standing in front of Alfa Romeo in Alabama talking about the possibility of Ryan Grubb." That was one of the first comments.
Why does that matter? What were they?
I think it was.
They thought we were, you know, horse and buggy.
I think it was a flex that I was standing outside of an Alfa Romeo place.
So they thought you'd be in front of a Kubota dealership.
So then
I'm getting my tractor service.
Because Kalen DeBoer was the offensive coordinator at Indiana. He's the OC. He's an offensive-minded coach. He was the OC there. He's been an OC before he became a head coach.
Oh, yeah.
Ryan Grubb's been with him since Sioux Falls. So you can't say they haven't intertwined in building this offense. Ryan Grubb was the primary play caller, but Kalen DeBoer was the offensive coordinator, and Ryan Grubb was below him in the process.
But let's not forget when we initially heard about the hire, the first person we had on was Brock Heward from Fox. And he said the thing that would excite me the most if I'm an Alabama fan is he's bringing his entire gang with him.
Oh, that's right. The entire gang was always the big selling point.
Yeah, yes. And Ryan Grubb was 1A.
That's right.
And you just, I don't know. I mean, look, Kalen DeBoer knows sooner or later he's losing Ryan Grubb.
Well, yeah, I mean, he could be a head coach next year very easily if Alabama has any success at all this year.
If I had been Washington, I think I would have just elevated him up.
I was surprised they didn't, honestly. Yeah.
But you heard kind of one of their prereqs was we want a guy that's got head coaching experience.
Which is always a huge mistake.
Yeah, I never understand that.
Yeah, I kind of, though.
I want the best coach. I don't care what he is.
If you're an Alabama fan, you want the acclamation of Kalen DeBoer from the Pac-12 to the SEC. You want him with all hands on deck. You want Ryan Grubb there this year.
Yeah. Now, if Ryan Grubb is a Jimmy Sexton client, I could also see this as I doubt that paperwork has been signed. It could have been.
Oh, it has not. No, it has not been officially announced at Alabama. Ryan Grubb has never been called Alabama's offensive coordinator.
So I doubt that paperwork has been signed anywhere. So if you're Jimmy Sexton, this wouldn't be a bad time to say, yeah, I know you guys are planning on paying $1.5 million, but you don't want to lose your offensive coordinator before he calls a play in the spring game, do you?
Yeah.
That's going to take $2.5 million.
Yeah, a lot of people have fallen in love with Ryan Grubb for good reason. But I said, hey, Kalen DeBoer, this was the video. Kalen DeBoer was an offensive coordinator before he became a head coach. Ryan Grubb's been with him since Sioux Falls, since way back 2007, LT says. So they've intertwined. Well, the Washington folks, hashtag Purple Rain, we appreciate all the clicks and things, the impressions you made on our social media platform yesterday.
I got to go watch this video.
Perp Smoke.
Perp Smoke?
Yeah. for purple
Yeah,
smoke.
it's not PERP. It's not like he's getting arrested.
That couldn't be less true. DeBoer has been out of the offensive scheme and play calling for several years now. The offense and play calling is 100% Grubb's. Kalen didn't even know the names of the plays that they ran at practice, says Perp Smoke.
That's silly. If you think that's true, that's silly.
I will say this. I did hear that Ryan Grubb, and maybe this was misinformation, had changed his bio on his Twitter to saying something about the University of Alabama, and there is nothing on it now. And he hasn't posted since January 13th, and that was a open letter to Husky Nation.
He was at the Auburn-Alabama basketball game.
Yeah.
And he was always talking to people, so I didn't want to go up and introduce myself, but he was there. He was hanging out, and that was the Ryan Williams, flip day, if you remember correctly, right before the game. They flipped, so we all always had heard that Ryan Grubb and Ryan Williams had spent some time on some dry erase boards and watching tape together. There's some other Washington people who also echo the facts that Kalen DeBoer basically just drools at practice that Ryan Grubb is.
How did this team get to the playoffs?
That Ryan Grubb is the reason. Auburn fans reacting yesterday.
What did they say?
Oh, it's all over the place, Brownie. You got to go read them.
You're just being too positive? Yeah. Well, I did see one guy say that we used to be a good show until we started being Alabama blank writers.
Yeah, and then I did a hot take on coaches in college last night and everyone acting like they're blood diamond miners. Because of the way they have to work 16 hours a day now. So my timeline is full up with hot takes today.
Really? On Twitter?
Yeah, we'll talk more about that blood diamond industry that is college coaching nowadays. But Ryan Grubb, possibility of going back to Seattle. What would it mean? What's the impact? Let's do instant analysis here. What's the impact?
You can't say it's no impact because this is obviously a guy Kalen DeBoer is extremely comfortable with.
Yeah, and back to what he said, the whole gang, man, getting Kane Womack back, and this was everybody. We're all friends.
This would feel like the moment Nick Saban lost Kirby Smart, and you're like, I trust Nick Saban could go find a guy, but Kirby Smart knew what Nick Saban was thinking, and Nick Saban knew what Kirby Smart was thinking. Now Alabama went and found Jeremy Pruitt.
Yeah.
And, you didn't really miss a beat.
Or Kirby had raised like a child.
Yeah, who Kirby had raised like a child. So I'm sure there's a guy that DeBoer, like in the back of his mind, when Grubb, if Grubb did walk in and say, hey, just as a heads up, Seahawks have reached out, I'm going to listen. I'm sure the moment he said that, DeBoer was like, I'd hire this guy.
Yeah.
Shepard,
you're up from wide receiver coach.
Or I've always liked so-and-so. He and I have talked over the years, and if ever there was a chance to hire him, I'm going to hire him. Kind of like a Kane Womack situation, right? When they were in Indiana, they used to talk, and they always kind of wanted to coach together. And so I'm sure there's a guy in Kalen DeBoer's mind, and that guy is probably like, come coach Alabama's roster? Sure, I'll do that in a heartbeat. Yes, thank you for the ask.
Yeah.
So, it'd be a big loss because it's a guy he's obviously comfortable with. But, I think it's far from crippling. I think that was kind of your point in the Alfa Romeo video, right?
But I would say this, I do think, and I've said the job doesn't seem too big for Kalen DeBoer, but because of the familiarity, the trust, hey, look, you run your offense and I can delegate doing other things. Yeah. Now the focus becomes, I've got to really, really get on this offense now, and I'm going to lose some focus on the other aspects.
David makes a great point. All the hashtag Purple Rain people that make, DeBoer sound like late Bobby Bowden, and Joe Paterno coaching for the press box.
49-year-old Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah. David says DeBoer literally was calling plays in 2020 at Indiana. We that is not that long ago that the dude literally was calling plays.
Yeah.
I don't think he's forgotten how to do it.
Yeah. So we'll see how it all works out. Obviously, best case scenario is Ryan Grubb staying. Because they have a team that's been working well together. And the fact that they went out to get Kane Womack from South Alabama was a big deal, right? Because of the familiarity he had with Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb. They've all worked together before, and there's something about having a staff of people that like each other and are all pulling in one direction. So it is a big story. And then you get to the spring practice that's about to start. And if you had to, rearrange your staff again, and then that portal opens up after, if you're not clicking on practice and the players don't feel the right way, there's that other portal that still could open. So still some choppy waters in Tuscaloosa. And maybe I'm, playing it too calm as I enjoy a latte in front of the Alfa Romeo Birmingham sign yesterday for the folks in Washington. But
I love that they were busting your balls for that.
Are we just going to ignore he's standing in front of an Alfa Romeo? If only they knew I grew up in a trailer.